the border, there needs to be something that's done, but also politically, this is one of the biggest vulnerabilities. And regardless of who's mad about the details of what's in here and what isn't in here, it's a political vulnerability for the president and his campaign. They know that. They knew they would have to do something like an executive order before the election politically as well. And that's what we're seeing play out.
And that's what we're seeing play out. It's politically. So even she, and that's Jen Psaki, the former Biden White House spokesmodel who was given an hour-long show on MSDNC. She's a journalist now. See how that works? First you're a Democrat, then you're a journalist. Now, great, David Axelrod, he was a journalist, then he was a Democrat. It is a circle fest in a hot tub. I am telling you, you don't want to get into that hot tub either. Bad things happen in that hot tub. I'm telling you. That's a fact, Jack. Now, so many things to get to, so much audio, so many stories, such madness. In New York City, they're imposing this London-style congestion pricing on commuting in and out of the city. And ABC7 New York with the headline, Congestion Pricing in New York City Indefinitely Postponed. Indefinitely postponed. Why would they do that? Why would they indefinitely postpone the commuter pricing, congestion pricing? Oh, it's because it would murder the city. They're doing everything they can to murder the city. They're trying to throw the city in front of a moving subway train and kill it. An official tells Eyewitness News the implementation of congestion pricing to come in and out of New York City has been indefinitely postponed. It will not start on June 30th as originally planned. There are two reasons, one economic, one political. They're both political. According to the official, New York Governor Kathy Hochul, who's just awful, she's the one who said that, the black kids in the Bronx don't even know what the word computer is, right? They're just so awful, these Democrats. Kathy Hochul is convinced the timing is not right because Manhattan businesses have not fully recovered from the pandemic. That just occurred to them now. These are really dim-witted people, aren't they? It's also apparently because Democrats are facing difficult House races in New York City and the suburbs. Amazing. Republicans have planned to use congestion pricing as a political wedge. These guys are constantly getting wedges. They, a lot of them spend a lot of time hanging by their underwear elastic strap from the corner of their lockers in school. That's a big problem that they have. One of their many problems. Listen, it's Mailbag Day, too. I mentioned that it's Mailbag Day, right? And there are lots of, so many, there are too many things to get to. But there are so many mailbag things. And we get a lot of tweets and emails and letters in the mail. We get letters by way of the U.S. mail as well. And we get a lot of mail about this, about my Newsmax show. On the Newsmax show, we have a liberal who's regularly on the panel with us. His name is Jason Nichols. Jason Nichols is a professor at the University of Maryland, African American Studies. And one of the things we hear a lot is from Callie May 855, commenting, I have to record the Right Squad, on the DVR. I have to record the White Squad so I can fast forward through Jason's nonsense. I thought that was kind of funny. It's not really a question in there, but it's kind of funny. Anyway, and we hear a lot about that. We do hear a lot about that. There's no doubt that that's something we hear frequently from viewers of the Right Squad at 10 p.m. Eastern, for the time being at least, on Newsmax TV. But that's something that we get a lot. We get letters in the mail about that. We get a lot of things. We do have another one from Rick. I won't use last name, in Silver Spring, Maryland. I guess I'll keep writing you until you make this change on your TV show. That fellow, Professor Nichols, has got to go. He always looks mad as hell on the set. Everything he says is liberal garbage that none of us conservatives want to hear. You always get this childish grin on your face every time Nichols opens his mouth. You look like you want to throw a pie in his face. That's great. Your right side show, it's the Right Squad, will not last if you keep this clown on your panel. If I see him on set, I change the channel. Need I say more? That's from Rick in Silver Spring. And we do hear a lot of that. And Rick, and I thank you for your input on that. I do. It's market research, and I appreciate it very much. Now, also in the mailbag today, Lee from the Real Housewives of WMAL asks, Rush Limbaugh used to say that he would tell us when to panic. And that's true. Rush Limbaugh said, don't panic. I'll tell you when it's time to panic. What do you think Rush would be saying today? Now, that is an intelligent question from Lee of the Real Housewives of WMAL. Is it time to panic? I've got to tell you, we're in really tough shape as a country right now, as a culture, as a nation, as a people. We are on the ropes, and I have never seen anything like it. I've been paying attention for a very long time, since I was a small child growing up in a news media household, Walter Cronkite coming over to the house and things gobbling up the news morning, noon, and night from the time I was a small child. And we're in very, very tough shape. And it's time that we stand up and square up. And I'm not going to say panic, but I'm going to say that it is time that we became more active. And I've been talking about school boards for years. Honestly, and Michael, and I know that many of you out there and members of the Real Housewives of WMAL can attest to this. I've been talking about the importance, the overlooked importance of school boards for a decade and a half because of what we saw happening to and what we saw happening in our schools. It is time that everyone step up. And, the lefties have been taking over everything very methodically, like an invading army of communists. The environmental boards at a county level, the school boards, the county administration jobs, and they've been abusing these powers that they've secured for years and years. And it's time that ordinary, normal men and women, young and old, step up and take over these slots on every level of government, which the left has been doing for decades now, as part of a methodical takeover of our culture and our country. And they're political fanatics in pretty much every case. It's amazing. And be elected to your local town council or your city council. It leads to, and I know you don't want a career in politics, but look at who does want a career in politics. And you've got to step up and become a member of the county council, and then maybe the state house, and then maybe, God forbid, a member of the House of Representatives in the U.S. Congress. It's not time to panic. It's time to become more active and more focused and more engaged in politics on every level, because we have ceded the territory to the fanatics, to the crazy people who want that. You want the job so that the position won't be abused. You want it for good. They want it for evil. And we must step up. And I mean, honestly, from the PTA meetings forward, these crazy people in schools have to be stopped. The crazy people on local government level have to be stopped. On a county level have to be stopped. And you've got to step up to keep crazy people from taking over these positions. Panic? No, but time to open our eyes and to stand up and to step forward and to take these positions which you think are not very powerful. I told a story years ago about a friend of mine, Danny, who lives out by Trump National in Sterling, Virginia. And he's got a beautiful home, and it's on the Potomac River with a bluff going down to the Potomac River. And these glassy-eyed 20-something zombies showed up at his front door one day and said, "We're with the county environmental whatever, and we're here to inform you that we have a plan to take away your backyard and put a bike path, a jogging path, a walking path through your backyard so everyone can enjoy the river. And he said, I'm sorry, what? Who are you? And what are you planning on doing? This belongs to everybody. And he's like, no, this belongs to me. This is my backyard. And these crazy people take over at every level, and they have these fanatical ideas, and they're commies. Some of them are too stupid to know that they're commies. They're just useful idiots for the commies. But that opened my friend's eyes to a whole lot of things and changed the way that he was thinking. So, Lee, it's not time to panic. And Rush, you're right. Rush did say, I'll tell you when it's time to panic. It's not time to panic, but boy, is it time to get out and get your neighbors to vote for the right people and the right person. And if it's not you yourself, then step up for the right people to get them into every position that has a green paycheck, a government paycheck associated with it, because the crazy people took over long ago when we weren't paying attention. And that's led to all kinds of tragic results. Arby asks, do you return your grocery cart to the cart corral, or are you a communist? This goes to a story about a woman who posted a video who it's made a lot of news. And the woman says, well, I got my kids, I got the groceries, I come out to my car, I get the kids in the car, I've got the cart. I want the car running for air conditioning or heat or whatever. I don't want to leave my kids in the car because all the crazy Democrats are stealing everything and kidnapping kids happened in Washington, D.C. day before yesterday. And the lady said, and I think we got some audio of the lady who said, I don't return my cart to the thing. She sounded like this.
I'm not returning my shopping cart. And you can judge me all you want. I'm not getting my groceries into my car, getting my children into the car, and then leaving them in the car to go return the cart. So if you're going to give me a dirty look, off.
Wow, a little tough talk, little harsh talk. A lot of people talk like that these days. It's impolite, I think, to talk like that. But that was posted on TikTok, and it caused a big conversation. Now, here's the funny thing. I walk to the grocery store. So I don't leave the grocery store with a shopping cart. I use a shopping cart and then I bag the stuff up. But at the cash register, normally, and almost always, I take my bags and I walk out of the grocery store. My best girl, she goes across the street to the grocery store too, but also drives to a different grocery store that's, some would say a better grocery store, and takes the cart to an underground garage. And I really can't speak to that, but I'm a person who would, if there's a place here to leave the cart, to park the cart, I would park it there. I really don't take shopping carts any farther than the cash register myself. So I don't have kids to put in the car and all that stuff. But I understand what the woman is saying. And honestly, there's a story. There's a story on the Metro section front page of the Washington Post today. Woman is charged in fatal carjacking, but not very much. Police allege she crashed vehicle stolen at D.C. hospital, killing occupant. Now, it's not the grocery store, of course, but a nice lady brought her mother, her 55-year-old mother, to the Washington Hospital Center. It was day before yesterday now. And Leslie Marie Gaines, 55 years old, was feeling unwell. Her daughter brought her to the hospital, the Washington Hospital Center, and her daughter went inside to get a wheelchair to bring her mother inside the hospital because it had reached that point. And a crazy person, a Democrat, jumped into the car and raced away with 55-year-old Leslie Marie Gaines. And the crazy woman, Kayla Kanisha Brown, 22 years old, careened through the city of Washington before stealing that at MedStar Hospital. And then she crashed into the building that houses the U.S. Attorney for Washington, D.C., and killed the woman. Leslie Marie Gaines was killed. And that's what mom is concerned about as she walks away for 1 minute and she's got her kids in the car, not to mention her groceries, and somebody's going to jump in and steal the car. It's about crime. It's about fear that I think the woman doesn't want to go away from her car with her kids in the car and all that stuff. Now, police charge this woman with felony murder, kidnapping, unarmed carjacking, and then prosecutors, who are left-wing radicals in Washington, D.C., just filed a carjacking charge in court. They say, oh, the felony murder and the kidnapping and the no. So the left-winger is in charge of prosecuting people. That's just a little aside. But I think that's why that mother is concerned about leaving her kids in the car and walking away with a shopping cart. It's crime. It's Democrats. Know what I'm talking about? Yes. You know, and I got one more mailbag question still to get to. Father's Day is just around the corner, and you might be trying to figure out what the perfect gift is for Dad, the man who has everything, right? The solution is simple. Give him the unforgettable experience of Omaha steaks, because a world-class father deserves world-class steaks. The Father's Day experts at Omaha Steaks, they've been at this for a long time, have made it very easy to put a smile on Dad's face with hand-selected gift packages starting at just $89. That's like one dinner out at a restaurant with Dad. You and Dad. You can go to omahasteaks.com and use the code PLANT at checkout. With Omaha Steaks, the possibilities are endless. Endless flavor, endless variety, endless value. Truly, you know, they've perfected more than a steak for your dad. Guaranteed to love every bite. And time is running out, so don't wait until the last minute. Go to omahasteaks.com and use the code PLANT, P-L-A-N-T-E. Why the E? Nobody knows. Use PLANT at checkout for unforgettable gifts and guaranteed savings. You're going to make Dad smile. Make his day for Father's Day. There's one thing that Omaha Steaks knows for sure, and that is that dads want steaks. Visit omahasteaks.com today and shop the gift packages starting at just $89 when you use the code PLANT at checkout. But go now before it's too late. A minimum order may be required. Visit omahasteaks.com today for details. Yes, sir. Yeah, and I saw that woman with the the shopping cart thing. And I immediately concluded it was about crime. It's about fear. Because the Democrats, the fundamental transformation of America, they didn't say they were going to make it better. I gave that shopping cart thing a little more thought, and we discussed it, Michael Piercy and I did during the break. And the answer is, on those occasions when I do have a shopping cart, I do bring them back to where they're supposed to be. I do. I don't leave them where the next car, where they're going to roll over and hit somebody's car, or where somebody's going to have to get out and move them to park. No, I put the carts back where they are. And Smelvis asks, what's the oldest piece of clothing you own? And that's got to be a T-shirt from a Ronald Reagan road trip from the 1980s. Reagan T-shirt for sure. Bam. I tell you, this woman who posted the video on TikTok of her not returning her shopping cart because of the kid. It's just gotten so much amazing response. I had a police officer respond after I said, well, it's fear of crime. Doesn't want her car jacked and her kids kidnapped by some Democrat psychopath who hopes to die soon in prison. And the Democrats have millions of those, and the illegal aliens and the Venezuelan gang members. And, it's a dangerous world out there. I don't even know where this woman is, but I did get a text from a police officer friend who said, oh, that's absolutely right. This is fear of crime is what this woman is responding to. And there are all kinds of videos online of, like grown men with no kids just leaving their shopping carts in the parking space and stuff. And I think that's impolite. I do. And I always think, well, what if like a nice old woman shows up after me and I have rudely left the shopping cart here and it's always on a slope, and it turns and starts creaking across the parking lot after you leave. And I've never given it a lot of thought, but I do return the carts because, my mother raised me right. And also, Tim, a friend of mine, Tim, sent a reminder, kids, last year in Washington, D.C., which is only 61 square miles of dirt plus a little water, there were 958 carjackings in Washington, D.C. last year. And they will tell you, don't leave your car. And especially the key, you got the kids in the car, all that stuff. There have already been 217 carjackings in Washington, D.C. so far this year. And I saw somebody, a local politician, bragging the other day that carjackings are down. Because last year was an all-time world record of 958 carjackings in our little city of 700,000 people. It's not a giant city, and only 61 square miles with rivers on a couple of sides, and so you get a little more acreage on the rivers. But that is, it's a dangerous place, and you don't leave your car running and walk away, and you don't leave your kids in your car and walk away. Certainly not with your key in your car and the car running. But if you've got kids, you might want to have air conditioning or heat in the wintertime or whatever, and you don't want to. It's fear. It's because the Democrat Party has made America a much more dangerous country. And then they lie to us and tell us that crime is down, the FBI statistics and all that, right? So that's, it was all mailbag related stuff, wasn't it? But it was that lady and the thing. All right, let's get back to Ted Cruz, because Ted Cruz had enough of this phony executive order by Joe Biden, which will do nothing to secure our border and exempts entire categories of people like unaccompanied youths, unaccompanied children, minors, which technically is supposed to be 17 years of age and younger. But if you show up with a full beard and you're covered with tattoos and you're 25 years old and say, oh, no, I'm 17, then what? The Democrat Party has a bad idea for every occasion. Senator Ted Cruz from Texas, which is an actual border state, is having none of it.
The Mexican drug cartels in 2018 made roughly $500 million from human trafficking. $500 million is a lot of money. Last year, the Mexican drug cartels made over $13 billion from human trafficking. That's a 2,600% increase. So he's right. He's taken the cash to the cartels with unprecedented force. He's made them the most powerful forces in Mexico.
And that is a fact, Jack. And we're talking about really dangerous, brutal, murderous, criminal organizations. You've probably seen the multiple bodies of men hanging upside down under bridges by their ankles or their knees as a symbol and a warning to people that might cross them. These are extremely dangerous. El Chapo, who has 2 American children, by the way, I think they say that he's responsible for killing 100,000 people. His organization, his gang. And these are really, and we have borders for reasons, but the Democrat Party is not on our side. They're just not on our side. And they want to fundamentally transform America into the most desirable, most successful, the most enviable country in the world, to just another beep hole country that, they're going to turn it into such a beep hole that lots of illegal aliens are going to leave here because it's such a beep hole. In fact, that's already happening. I didn't look up this story today, but I told you the story here about a family from Yemen that came here as refugees and went to San Francisco. And their daughter was so terrified, wouldn't walk to school. Mom started walking. They're so terrified in San Francisco that they literally decided to go back to Yemen, which is at war. But the Democrats have turned San Francisco into such a beep hole that this Yemeni family decided to flee after fleeing Yemen because it was such a beep hole, came to the United States figuring this will be great, went to San Francisco. They've seen it on TV shows and movies maybe. And they get there, and they were so terrified by what the Democrats had done that they literally went back to Yemen. That's what the Democrats can do. This is the left. This is why I like to point out they're not liberals, they're the left. And the left is the third world everywhere in the world they go. Senator Ted Cruz.
He has turned them into multi-billion-dollar global criminal conspiracies who are smuggling criminals and terrorists into America.
And the Democrats are their most important allies, their most important resource. The Democrat Party in the United States of America Ted Cruz having none of it.
There wasn't a bipartisan deal. There was a Chuck Schumer deal that was a terrible, terrible deal. The Chuck Schumer deal would have made the problem
Listen to
worse.
this.
The Chuck Schumer deal put in the law catch and release. It codified it. The Chuck Schumer deal gave work permits to illegal immigrants when they arrive here. The Chuck Schumer deal gave taxpayer-funded lawyers to illegal immigrants when they got here. The Chuck Schumer deal normalized roughly 2 million illegal immigrants a year, every year in perpetuity. It was a terrible, terrible deal. And the reason is Chuck Schumer doesn't want to secure the border. Joe Biden doesn't want to secure the border. The Democrats don't want to secure the border. They want this invasion. The whole purpose of the Chuck Schumer deal was for every Democrat running for re-election to say, see, we had a deal that would have fixed it, right, but the mean old Republicans wouldn't agree to it. And that's what Joe Biden is doing now.
That's exactly right. And he nailed it there. Ted Cruz did. It's a bit of a long soundbite, but he nailed it so well that I wanted to play the whole thing for you. Chuck Schumer, this whole lie that, the Senate has a good bill that would secure the border. That is a filthy lie, and if we had a news media, then they would call him on it and hold their feet to the fire and hold government, the powerful people in government, accountable for their lies. But our news media does not do that. Instead, they lie to us every day because they're Democrats. There are too many Democrats. Oh, there's something else. Back to the mailbag. What can we do? Is the time to panic. Get a job in journalism and try to fix that. Good luck. I mean, it's why I left CNN, because CNN was no longer telling the truth, and I could no longer, with a straight face and in good conscience, tell people what I did for a living. And that's when I knew I was at CNN for 17 years. And at the end, people in Washington, it's what's your name? What do you do? Right? Like in California, what's your name? What do you drive? And here it's what's your name and what do you do? And that's always the second question you're asked in Washington, D.C. What do you do for a living? And it became so embarrassing that I started making things up. I sell small arms in Africa. I'm a drug trafficker. I would just come up with anything, so I didn't have to say that I was in journalism. I was in the news business. I was with CNN because, honestly. But now Kamala Harris, she is our border czar, isn't she? And she's our moon czar or a space czar or something. She's a czar of many things. She's a czarina, really, I think. I haven't checked personally, but Willie Brown did. And Kamala Harris was on the Jimmy Kimmel show last night, and honestly, the show is not comedy. It's not even entertainment, and it's not celebrity interviews. It is Democrat Party propaganda, just like Jimmy Fallon, just like CBS and Stephen Colbert, just like The View. These shows, these network TV shows, because Democrats, if you give them a thimbleful of power, they'll abuse it before the sun goes down. Yeah, and you give them a TV network, they'll abuse that power. You give them a city council seat, they'll abuse that power. Give them a classroom full of children, and they'll abuse that power because the left is so completely crazy. And I did go find the story about the family from Yemen. Family fled war to move to San Francisco, but can't escape trauma in the Tenderloin. First of all, no neighborhood should be called the Tenderloin. But Kamala Harris was on the Jimmy Kimmel show last night doing Kimmel and Kamala propaganda. And the big lie and Ted Cruz just explained that this Democrat bill in the Senate, the Schumer bill, did nothing to control the border. Nothing whatsoever. It was all a lie. And, it was bipartisan. They had one Republican who regrets signing on to that, and he backed away. But Kamala Harris and Jimmy Kimmel doing Democrat Party propaganda. It's an election year.
So then there was a bipartisan group that included some of the most conservative senators in the United States Senate who came together with Democrats to resolve some of these issues. And that was the plan, that agreement. Well, the Republicans in Congress got a call from Donald Trump, don't do the deal. Because, you see, he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And that's the tragedy of it. And our point has been very clear. There are solutions at hand, and let's do the right thing. And again, I think this points to a significant contrast for the people in November.
Sure, that's what it is. And they just lie. She may not be smart enough to know that she's lying because I don't think she follows the news or anything. But that is the propaganda you get. And then the anti-American radical extremist squad member, Pramila Jayapal, was talking to television cameras yesterday about this too. And this big lie of the comprehensive immigration bill that was bipartisan is just a lot. Now, the reality is the House of Representatives passed House Resolution number 2, H.R. 2, which really would do a lot to secure our border. And every Democrat and Chuck Schumer put the kibosh on that. Honestly, Pramila Jayapal.
I think the president has introduced a comprehensive immigration reform bill. That is the kind of work that we need to be doing and that we want him to emphasize so that there is a clear difference between what he and Democrats are pushing for and what Donald Trump pushed for. And my concern about this executive order is it's trying to be all tough on the border and it's not going to fix anything. And it confuses the message about what we stand for.
Yeah, it confuses the message. It confuses the message about what we stand for, which is the fundamental transformation of America, open borders, non-English speaking country, gangs and crime from all over the world, fentanyl flowing freely into the country, 100,000 fatal drug overdoses plus every year, 108,000, but who's counting the 8,000? That's a rounding error in fatal drug overdoses. And it's our messaging, which is the propaganda. Which reminds me that Alex Soros, the spawn of George Soros, who is here to destroy the world, Alex Soros tweeted last week that the Democrats have to keep calling Trump convicted felon, convicted felon, convicted felon, since the Democrat lynch mob in New York convicted him on all 34 counts without deviation in no time at all. And Alex Soros, radical left-wing extremist, said, Democrats should refer to Trump as a convicted felon at every opportunity. Repetition is the key to a successful message. That's what he tweeted. Now, that, of course, is something that he lifted from the Nazi propagandist Joseph Goebbels. Joseph Goebbels, who is, of course, one of the favorites of the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Did I hear you correctly say that perhaps he was influenced by Goebbels?
I think he was influenced by Goebbels. And Alex Soros says repetition is the key to a successful message. Goebbels, as Al Sharpton would call him, he's a $1 million journalist at NBC News, is Joseph Goebbels, the propaganda minister for Adolf Hitler and his Socialist Workers' Party, right? Which is what his party was called, the German Socialist Workers' Party, the Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. And Goebbels said, a lie told once remains a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. And that is what Alex Soros is channeling. He's channeling Goebbels.
We're told that, Goebbels and the great lie. You keep repeating the lie, repeating the lie.
That's exactly right, because a lie told once remains a lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth. That's what Alex Soros is pushing with the convicted felon. Just keep repeating it. A lie told 1,000 times becomes the truth, said Joseph Goebbels, or Goebbels, if you prefer, and said Alex Soros in slightly different phrasing, slightly different words, same thing.
Yes, of course. You never went bowling with Goebbels either, I suppose, eh?
Now, why did Joe Biden do this feckless, hapless, pointless thing yesterday? It's because their poll numbers are bad. Because 67% of us believe that Joe Biden is doing a terrible job when it comes to our open border and the crime and the gangs and the drugs and the human trafficking and the sex trafficking and the child sex trafficking that the Democrats so enjoy. Even CNN had a little bit of a meltdown when one of their boys, Harry Enton, got up there with the big screen and said, wait a minute, people love what President Trump says and does when it comes to the border and don't like, and they used to love what Biden did with the border, but no more.
Back in June of 2020, Biden was actually trusted more on the question of border security and immigration by a single point. Look at where we are in May of 2024. My goodness gracious. Look at this huge jump that Donald Trump has gotten. He is now ahead on this issue by 27 percentage points.
That's a 28-point swing on the border. President Trump ahead, and it's one of the top issues with all voters. President Trump favored. A 28-point swing, favored by 27 points.
So it's not just that immigration is more at the top of voters' minds than it was 4 years ago. It's that who they trust on the issue has changed tremendously. I look at a lot of questions. I dig into the crosstabs a lot. The fact that you see a 30-point shift, I'm used to seeing 10, 15, maybe 20-point shifts, but basically a 30-point shift, 28 points if you want to be exact, that is very, very different from a lot of other polling questions.
And that's why they're in a panic, and that's why they're doing something symbolic about it. Now let's go to Rick calling from Fairfax, Virginia. Ricardo, you're on the Chris Plant Show.
Hey, Chris. Thanks for taking the call.
Hey, Rick, you bet.
A couple of things real quick. Biden issued a proclamation. He did not issue an executive order. There is a difference. If you read that, the proclamation that he issued, there's some real qualifying language in it. So a couple of things. He talks about, this proclamation is going to do what I can't do from an executive standpoint, but I'm going to take these actions anyway. So just to be succinct on this, executive orders, which this is not, they have, they're directed to government officials. They have the force of law.
Right.
If it's followed by authority in the Constitution. Proclamations, however, do not have the force of law unless the president is given the authority, and specifically unless authorized by the U.S. Congress. A presidential proclamation.
You are correct, Rick. And I saw you on the board, and I wanted to put you on to help clarify that point. The Washington Post on the front page calls it Biden's executive actions, right? The Washington Times says Mr. Biden in issuing a proclamation suspending the yada yada. The Washington Times getting it right once again. The Washington Post misleading once again. And the Democrats will continue to lie about it.